Hello, my name is Julian Baker and I wanted to tell you a little bit about what I'm planning for my dissection class for this year. Now, I've been running in-person dissection classes for many years, and then during lockdown, of course, I couldn't run them, but what I started to do was to do some webinars and put some information out there, and this became an opening, as it were, to be able to then run live stream dissections from a lab. And I first did that in the United States. I've carted all the kit out there and ran them, and I did that a couple of times. I've actually really only done it sort of 4 times since then. The logistics of it are enormous and the learning curve is huge, and generally speaking what ends up happening is that I'm broadcasting live from within the dissection lab, and I'm looking at monitors and I'm seeing what shots to use and pressing buttons, and also answering questions that are coming in on the chat. Don't get me wrong, it's great and I love doing it, but there's a lot involved. And also, as we're progressing, if I need to change something out, if I'm finding something or dissecting something I need to focus, that's a lot harder. So I'm going to be in Poland this year dissecting, and the other aspect of that is I generally like to broadcast of an evening. And with the time frame, time difference that we have as far as America is concerned, I can do that quite easily. So I can dissect in the afternoon, and it can go out an evening in Europe. In Europe, of course, in Poland, it's slightly different. I can't get into the university in the evening, and so I was thinking about how I could possibly do this. And I also don't have the internet speeds and the bandwidth to be able to do that. So what I decided to do this year is to do it so that what I'm going to be doing is recording it through the day and then broadcasting it while I'm there, sort of a joint first time broadcast, if you like, of an evening. And when I think about it, this is ideal, because what it means is that if there's any technical glitches or if there's anything that's going on that I need to adjust, then I can do that. I haven't got to worry about people sort of sitting there at home going, what's going on? And so it means I can have a seamless broadcast, and the time that I'm broadcasting is absolutely dedicated to giving information that is accurate and full on. It also means that I can answer questions in the chat while I'm watching it, so I'm not having to stop and answer questions and think about the answers. I can answer those questions in the chat, and then I can also have a bit of time at the end of that broadcast where I can then go into answering any questions. Just switch off the broadcast and put the camera back onto me, and I'm not in the lab. So I didn't think of this before, but I think it's a perfect way of being able to get the information across. So I'm going to be doing it in 3 sections of 3 effectively. So I'm going to do the first workshop is going to be 3 days of the shoulder and the lateral neck. So the other thing that enables sort of a lot of smooth transition, if you like, is the fact that much of the dissection process is quite slow, and so watching it isn't that instructive if you're just watching it happen. So I can take out the bits that are long. It means I can focus, I can do a really good job, and I can show you the tissues in the stages of their dissection, rather than necessarily you having to watch the whole thing. So again, it's going to be slightly edited so that all that stuff is gone, and I'll be watching it with you. I often find that when I'm watching stuff back, I see things that I haven't noticed before, and I go, that's interesting. The donors that I'm going to be working with, I have embalmed myself. There's that saying that, if you want a job done, then, do it yourself. And traditional embalming within university environments tends to use a lot of formalin, which is a chemical that creates quite a strong fix. And these are a lot of the images that you'll see around about and on YouTube, and where there's a lot of, they're very dried out, they're quite leathery, and they're not very pliable. And so the system that I use is using a different set of chemicals, and so each donor is embalmed individually, and we put these different chemicals in which give them enough preservation to be able to make sure that they're not going anywhere, but also that there's full mobility. So we have all this movement and mobility in the tissues, and so what you're seeing is it's a lot more lifelike, for want of a better word. Some people will talk about fresh tissue, fresh frozen or unfixed is sometimes used. And again, great, it's no problem, but it's very wet and soft. There's no tone to it. There's no tension to it. And in living tissue, there's always tension. The tension comes from the nervous system being alive. And once that's gone, it's just floppy tissue. So it's not really giving you the range. And so the way that I'm working with these donors is that they will have a little bit of tone and a bit of almost restriction from a full range of movement, but there'll still be full mobility in the tissues, which gives you a really perfect understanding of what's going on. So that's really the plan for this session. As I said, we're going to be doing lateral shoulder and neck, so we'll be looking at the skin, the platysma. Hopefully I'll be able to do that. It's always a questionable dissection because it's so thin, but I'll be able to take some more time with that because people aren't having to look at it live. And then we're going to drop down into the layers of the anterior shoulder, the lateral shoulder, the back, the scapula, the collarbone. And over a space of sort of 3 days, I'm going to show you all the way around through that shoulder and onto that lateral side of the neck, sort of from here downwards. And we can do graded dissections from one side to the other to be able to sort of do comparison and, of course, keep the shoulder joints moving. So by the end of that session, we'll have got down into the deeper structure of the shoulder and around the joints, and we'll be looking at those moving, and it's going to be great. The next workshop is going to be the hamstrings and knee, that sort of down to the just below the knee and looking at the joint ups. And so there's a lot of continuity that we tend to miss in relation to those structures. So when we're coming down from the hamstrings, they overlap through the knee. Which bits of them come across and join onto the inside of the knee? One thing structure we call a pes anserinus. That's really interesting. We'll have a little look at the sort of iliotibial band and how that wraps and becomes the bag that is encasing the hamstring. So that's again over a space of 3 days of an evening. We'll be broadcasting that out, so you'll be able to see that. And then the final one is the layers of the abdomen, but in this instance how that abdominal tissue relates down into the structures of the lateral pelvis and around, not a massively deep dissection, but round into the lateral pelvis and down into some of the glutes. And the reason I want to do that is because I want to again explore this idea of, we talk about core stability and core, and I want to show how the in-depth joining up, if you like, of the abdominal layers is, and what that looks like comparing it from one side to the other. I'll have my handheld microscope, which is amazing. It's just great because it means that we can look at the spaces that we wouldn't normally be able to see. Even if you're in the room, you wouldn't see the depth of those tissues and the spaces that we can get into. I've been doing it long enough now that I know not to have to move cameras around. I've got a great setup that can record all my camera angles at the same time. And so I'll take with me something in the region of 4 or 5 cameras and camera angles plus the microscope, and they'll all be able to sort of show those angles almost at the same time. So it's a really cool way of looking at things, and I can do split screens and 2 or 3 screens. And again, because I'm not having to worry about doing that live as such, it means I can give you a much better experience, curated, and be with you as you're watching it, so we're all watching it together. And I think that's going to be, I'm really excited about that because it means that I can interact in a way that I haven't been able to previously. The pricing is done in a way that makes it available. So a lot of these courses that other people are doing, I think is quite expensive, and that's no comment on them. But I think sometimes as therapists, it's we have to go out and do the job and earn the money, and we're self-employed a lot of the time, and so it's tough going. So I've kept the prices as low as possible to make it available to as many people as possible. And the thinking behind this is more from the perspective of the numbers rather than necessarily anything else. If it was just for 10 people, I couldn't afford to do it like that. But the whole point is that because I'm not bringing 15, 20 people into a lab, I don't have to charge those big fees. I can keep it reasonable, and everybody can also hopefully come on board. And the workshops will be available to buy individually as well. The other thing that really kind of infuriates me a little bit, because you pay for these workshops, and you're busy or what have you, and life gets in the way, and suddenly you've only got 2 days to watch it, and then you don't take on board what's going on. There's a huge amount of information. I cannot tell you what what, 9 hours in one workshop, including your Q&A sessions, are going to cover. There's a huge amount of information, and so that's very hard to take in one hit. So I want to make this available for you to be able to go, oh, you know, in 2 years' time, I'm doing a study on the shoulder or some nerves or what have you, and I'm going to go back and revisit that. So once you purchase access to the classes, then that's it. It's there permanently, and you know, as much as anything is permanent, then it's going to be there as long as I'm alive, the platform's going, and so on and so forth. So it's permanent lifetime access for the lifetime of the me, the class, the internet, society, civilization, whatever you want to call it. So it's always going to be there for you. If you can't get into the live session again, then don't worry about it, because it'll be a sort of a director's cut. You'll be able to come back to it. You'll be able to see that. It's all laid down, and you know, you'll be able to then see the Q&A sessions as well, which I'll also record at the end of each session. So I'm very excited. I love being in the lab. It's one of those things that 14 hours, as it were, it just flies by. Sometimes I can just be completely engrossed, and I look up and I'm shocked by the time that's gone by. It just disappears. And so to be in that space where I can, you know, really focus on the dissection and give a great experience, a learning experience, and talk you through the function and the movement. My stick isn't about teaching you anatomy. It's about showing you the relationships of things. You know, we've got the scapula and the collarbone and the humerus, and there's a relationship between those things, as well as things like the breath. We can't go into everything, but the breath and the neck and the head and how they move around. So I want to talk you through those movements. I'll be moving around the donor that I'm working on as we go to show you the movements. It's all about having a model that you can then take into your clinic that is applicable. It has to be, it's not just a learning anatomy, it has to be something that you can then go literally the next day and help somebody that is alive, as it were, and you know, help them in their pain. And that's really what the motivation is all about. And that's what the motivation of the donors is about. They gave their bodies. They said, when I'm dead, you can have my body, so I don't need it anymore, but go out and benefit other people. And that's really the example of what we're doing. So I hope you're going to join me. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very confident about this format. There's so many variables that I have when I'm having to go out live, in terms of, you know, is the internet going to go down, or, you know, have I got enough bandwidth, and so on and so forth. But here, I'm not going to say it's foolproof, because it never is. But here we've got this opportunity to have a really properly curated, held experience that I'll be sharing with you, and I'm really excited about this format and how we're going to go ahead with it. So see you in there. Come and join me. Gonna be amazing. July, second week in July, I think we're starting. So if you've missed the early bird, you missed the early bird, but hopefully you're going to get in and see this early bird, and it will inspire you to come and join me. The early bird is basically helps me, because then it means that even doing this, the costs of this are huge, they're enormous, and so the early bird helps me in terms of, you know, funding those lab fees and getting out there and the excess baggage charges. Anyway, so there we go. If you've got any questions about it, or you're not sure, then, you know, please get in touch, respond to this email wherever you're seeing it, spread the word. I think it's going to be great. I know it's going to be great, because it's bringing all that experience, and each time I do it, there's something new to add, and I'm looking forward to being able to share this with you. So see you in there. Bye for now.